जय ब्रज जन रंजना। जय यशोदानंदना जय ब्रज जन रंजना। जय ब्रज जन रंजना। जय ब्रज जन रंजना। जय ब्रज जन रंजना। जय यमुना तीरा वनचारी। जय कुंज बिहारी। जय यमुना तीरवनचारी। जय कुंज बिहारी। जय राधा माधव 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 जय कुंज बिहारी। जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजगचारष्टोदरस्य श्रीमद् डिवाइन ग्रेस श्रीला भाई चरणारविंद भक्ति वेदांत गोस्वामी महाराज श्रील प्रभुपाद की। इस्कॉन बीबीडी संस्थापक आचार्य श्रील प्रभुपाद की। जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजगचारष्टोदरस्य श्रीमद् डिवाइन ग्रेस श्रील भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती ठाकुर प्रभुपाद की। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की। नामाचार्य श्रील हरदास ठाकुर की। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद की। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड श्री गिरि गोवर्धन की। ब्रजभूमि श्री वृंदावन धाम की। पुरुषोत्तम क्षेत्र श्री जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की। नवद्वीप मायापुर धाम की। गंगा माई जमुना माई की। भक्ति देवी तुलसी महारानी की। कलयुग पावन हरिनाम संकीर्तन की। हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की। श्रील प्रभुपाद ट्रांसलेशन बुक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन की। निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे। All glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Desha Tarine. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Rama. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 8. Chapter entitled Prayers by Queen Kunti, Text 11. Suta Uvacha Upadharya Vachaha Tasya Bhagavan Bhaktavatsalah Apandavam Idam Kartum Draunehe Astram Abudhyata. Suta Uvacha Upadharya Vachastasya Bhagavan Bhaktavatsalaha Apandavam Idam Kartum Draunehe Astram Abudhyata. Sota Ovacha Upadharya Vachastasya Bhagavan Bhaktavatsalaha Apandavam Idam Kartum Draunehe Astram Abudhyata. Sota Ovacha Upadharya Svachastasya Bhagavan Bhaktavatsalaha Apandavam Idam Kartum Draunehe Astram Abudhyata. Matajis. Suta Vacha. Suta Goswami said, Upadharya, by hearing her patiently, Vachaha, words, Tasyaha, her, Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead, Bhaktavatsalaha, he who is very much affectionate towards his devotees, Apandavam, without the existence, of the Pandavas' descendants. Idam, this, kartum, to do it. Draunehe, of the son of Dronacharya. Astram, weapon. Abudhyata, understood. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Translation, Suta Goswami said, having patiently heard her words, Lord Sri Krishna, who was always very affectionate to his devotees, could at once understand that Ashwathama, the son of Dronacharya, had thrown the Brahmastra to finish the last life in the Pandava family. Purport. The Lord is impartial in every respect, but still He is inclined towards His devotees because there is a great necessity of this for everyone's well-being. The Pandava family was a family of devotees, and therefore the Lord wanted them to rule the world. That was the reason He vanquished the rule of the company of Duryodhana and established the rule of Maharaj Yudhishthir. Therefore, He also wanted to protect Maharaj Parikshit, who was lying in embryo. He did not like the idea that the world should be without the Pandavas, the ideal family of devotees. He did not like the idea that the world should be without the Pandavas, the ideal family of devotees. Apandavam idam kartum draunir astram abudhyata. So, this is a very, very important section of the Srimad Bhagavatam first canto, which begins with a conflict. And the conflict has been described in great detail in the previous chapter. And the conflict was amongst the Pandavas, amongst the devotees, on how to deal with Ashwathama, with mercy or with justice. And as a result, ultimately, Arjuna took away the jewel, and that satisfied both the justice party of Bhima and Krishna and the mercy party of Draupadi and Yudhishthir Maharaj. But then as a result, again, Ashwathama is so notorious that he attacks once more. And in this way, Lord Krishna himself manifests within the womb and protects Maharaj Parikshit. Tasmat namna Vishnurata iti loke bhavishyati na sandeho mahabhaga mahabhagavato mahan. So, the Srimad Bhagavatam begins with two very important themes. The first theme is, even though Krishna may be personally present, do not always expect decisions to manifest automatically about what to do and what not to do. Krishna is right there in front of Arjuna, but still there is confusion about what to do and what not to do. And therefore the Srimad Bhagavatam begins by demonstrating that you can only enter into the Bhagavatam, which is demonstrating the will of the Lord, by going deep within, by purifying our heart, purifying our consciousness, purifying the voices of our false ego, so that we are able to hear the voice of the Lord more clearly. Hare Hardam. That's what the word in the previous chapter says. That Arjuna was able to hear the voice of Krishna's will. He was able to understand Krishna's heart. So therefore, that requires diligent spiritual practice. The second is Tasmat namna Vishnurat iti loke bhavishyati. Parikshit Maharaj was saved by Krishna in the womb. But then, at the peak of youth, the same Parikshit is going to be cursed to die in 7 days and 7 nights. So Ashwathama is forgiven. Mahabharata demonstrates the killing of 64 crore soldiers. But Bhagavatam begins with one of those soldiers who is still alive, Ashwathama, wanting to kill, but how he is forgiven. And then the person who is protected by Krishna personally, Parikshit, is again cursed to die at the peak of youth. And what does he do? Tiraskritaha vipralabdaha shaptaha kshiptaha tapi nasya tat pratikurvanti tad bhaktaha prabhavopihi. Although very powerful to counteract, still he forgives Shringi who has cursed him and considers that I am only sinful. Tasyeva meghasya paravaresho vyasakta chittasya griheshva vikshnam nirveda mulo dvijashaparupo yatra prasakto bhayamashu dhatte. He says, this is Krishna's arrangement for me to become detached from my total attachment to sense gratification and things of this world. And then, what does Parikshit Maharaj desire? Parikshit Maharaj desires to be surrounded by the same sages and the Brahmanas, one amongst whom Shringi has been responsible for cursing him. So typically, when we go through a negative experience, we have a tendency to generalize. Because Parikshit Maharaj was cursed by Shringi, if he was an ordinary person influenced by false ego, he would have developed hatred towards all kinds of sages, rishis, sons of rishis, blaming them, including them in his vision of hatred. But Vaishnav has a heart which is full of love and compassion. And therefore, when to apply justice, when to apply mercy, is something which is revealed to him by the grace of the Lord. Tesham sadayuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam. And therefore, Srila Prabhupada describes that the greatest ornament of a devotee is forgiveness. So therefore, here, today we will discuss about how in the family of devotees to maintain, as it is described, the ideal family of devotees are the Pandavas. Apandavam. Krishna cannot tolerate the world being without the Pandavas. Because Krishna wants to make sure that the family of devotees exists, thrives, grows in this world for the benefit of this world. And one of the most important qualities required for the family of devotees to grow is forgiveness. Kshamaya rochate lakshmi brahmi shauri yatha prava. Kshamaya ashu bhagavan tushyanti haririshvara. Kshama is the great quality of a Vaishnava. Lakshmi Devi becomes very pleased with this. Just like the sun cannot be separated from sunshine, Kshama or forgiveness cannot be separated from the devotee. So therefore, when Parikshit Maharaj is praying, he is praying that Tammopayantam pratiyantu vipra Ganga cha devi dhritamishe. Yes, all of you sages have appeared in front of me. I pray to you. Normal person is fearful of the destruction of his body, but a devotee is fearful of the distraction of his mind. And therefore, Dvijopasrishta Kuhakastakshakova Dashatvalam Gayata Vishnugatha. And so, I'm only afraid that at that moment when the Takshak comes and bites me and infuses my body with poison, my mind should not become distracted because of that pain. Pain is a cause of great fear. And so, Parikshit Maharaj wants to make sure that he is able to retain the desire to serve and please Krishna at the moment of the greatest pain, at the time of death. Because the normal tendency of a conditioned soul seeking personal pleasure and constantly searching to avoid personal pain is to respond to pain by trying to understand, how can I minimize this pain? How can I avoid this pain? That's the normal reflex action. And therefore, bhukti, mukti, siddhi, kami, sakala, ashanta. Krishna bhakta, nishkama. Nishkama means a devotee is oblivious to the onset of pleasure and pain. And in the midst of pleasure and pain, continues to focus on how I can serve Krishna in these situations. Tomara sevaya dukkha hoye yata seito parama sukha seva sukha dukkha parama sampada nashaye abhidya dukkha. Thakur Bhaktivinoda says, in your course of devotional service, I go through pleasure and pain, but both pleasure and pain are causes of great sukha. Dukkha hoyata seito parama sukha. Because anyway, dukkha and sukha is going to come. But when I take and experience that in the course of your devotional service, I overcome the ignorance. So therefore, a devotee looks at every experience and episode of pain in life as an opportunity to practice for the ultimate pain at the time of death. Because there may be some solution available for pains experienced during life. But then a time will come when no solution exists. The pain is inevitable. And so if one is not practiced to cope with pains experienced during life with the right kind of attitude and response, then one cannot suddenly switch one's mental focus just at the moment of death. So therefore, here, Parikshit Maharaj, he's saying that at the moment of death, let me only think about how I can serve and please the Lord. And then he says, in case I am not able to remember the Lord and my mind gets distracted. So in the next verse, he asks that actually I desire three things. Punascha bhoyat bhagavati ananta rati. Let me have unlimited attraction towards Krishna if I am born again. Prasangascha tadashrayeshu. Let me have association of devotees and take their shelter. Because the association of devotees is that balm which helps me remember that I need to serve Krishna in the midst of all pleasure and pain. Mahatsuyamyam upayami srishtim maitriyastu sarvatra namo dvijebhya. And then by serving the Vaishnavas in all situations and being blessed by them, I will be filled with compassion towards all living beings and try to share this knowledge with others. And in this way, Maharaj Parikshit is offering his prayers. He is focused on how he is going to respond in this situation. Therefore, the right prayers are very important. So when we pray to the Lord, the power to forgive is also given by the Lord. And we should pray that the Lord forgives us for 4 things. First, in case of any sin and deviation. Okay, so first we pray to the Lord, please forgive us. Because as we are practicing this process, we may be involved in some kind of a sin, an activity which we know is not correct, but still we do that. Mahanta swabhava e tarite pamar nij karya nahi tabu jatara ghar. When Ramananda Rai meets Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he glorifies him. That you travel to all places delivering the souls. Amanistarite tomar iha agaman parama dayalu tumi patita pavan. You have come here to deliver fallen soul like me. And he says, who's patita? Vedanishta madhye ardhe ved mukhe mane ved nishidha papa kore dharma nahi gone. One who knows what is to be done, what is not to be done, still not able to have the conviction, the determination to implement with discrimination. And that is patita. And therefore, one can actually deviate. So a devotee prays to the Lord for being forgiven, for engaging in any kinds of sin or deviation. Ajamil, he grew up with excellent sanskaras, right? He knew all about the Shastras. Gurur atiti vriddhanam sushrushu anahankrita. He had all the good qualities. He had studied all the Vedas. He knew what is acharan as per the Vedic sanskaras. But still he deviated. Right? And why he deviated? Because suddenly for a moment he was overcome by lust. And that moment took over him completely. Stambhayanatmanatmanam yavat shrutvam yatha shrutam na shashaka samadhatum mano madana vepitam. Just like a heavy storm or a huge elephant in an intoxicated state can uproot a tender banana sapling effortlessly. The waves of lust in this world can uproot devotional consciousness at a moment's notice. Stambhayan atmanatmanam. And one's spiritual consciousness can become covered. That's what happened to Ajamil. Stambhayan, he tried to control himself. Atmanatmanam, he tried to control his mind with his intelligence and discrimination. Yavat shrutvam, based on what all he had heard. Yatha shrutam, what all he had studied. Na shashaka, but he could not. Samadhatum, he could not pacify his agitated mind. Mano madana vepitam. Because his mind was agitated by Kamadev, by lust. And so ultimately he called out to his son's name after a whole lifetime of sin post that. When he was about to die, he called out to his son Narayan, and then the Vishnu Dutas came and they saved Ajamil and gave him a second chance. And then after that dialogue, when the Yamadutas leave, Ajamil suddenly sees that the Vishnu Dutas have disappeared. And at that time, he offers his prayers of gratitude and begs for forgiveness for all of that which he has done. Athapi me durbhagasya vibhudottama darshane bhavitavyam mangalena yenatma me prasidati. My dear Lord, I was guaranteed to go to hell for all the kinds of sins which I committed. But you presented yourself in the form of your holy name and created auspiciousness. And therefore, I can understand that you are so merciful. And so, he offers his gratitude to the Lord and says, Soham vyakta pratishyami narake bhrishadaarune dharmagna kamino yatra vindanti yamayatana. My dear Lord, you have manifested in the form of your holy name, and that holy name does not discriminate and has touched my tongue and so purified me. Please forgive for all the deviations which I indulged in. And he heard that conversation between Vishnudutas and Yamadutas and thus got the discrimination. We have the example of Nalkubar and Manigriva. Rudrasya anucharo bhutva sudrastra dhanadatmajao kailasya upavane vanyo manda kinyo madotkato. So they had four great, privileges. They were associates of Rudra. They were the sons of Kubera. They had residence in Kailash and they were bathing in Mandakini. But still, what was their consciousness? Varunim madiram pitva mada ghurnita lochanau strijanair anugayadbhir cheratu pushpite bane. In Ganga, in Mandakini, they were busy drinking and being intoxicated. Varunim madiram pitva. And their eyes were intoxicated. Mada ghurnita lochanau. They were intoxicated by lust and they were doubly intoxicated by liquor. Both. Stri janair anugayat bhir. They were singing, not sankirtan. But they wanted to be entertained. And they were surrounded by flowers which they could pluck and offer to the Lord. But they were using that flowers to decorate the surrounding apsaras, women who were there. So at that point, Narad Muni came. And when Narad Muni came, they should have felt ashamed that great sage has come. But they became angry on Narad Muni. Why sannyasi is disturbing us? And that was their consciousness. Why has he come here? So Narad Muni could see that. And Narad Muni cursed them. Right? Anta pravishya gangayam amboja vanarajini chikridutur yubat bhir gajav eva karoenu bhir. And they were playing just like elephants. And so Narad Muni cursed them. Right? And within that curse was a benediction that they would get darshan of Lord in Gokul. And so later, when Lord Damodar is pulling the ukhal, at that moment, that mortar follows Lord Damodar. And so Lord Damodar wants to indicate the direction of my mercy follows the direction of mercy of the devotees. Devarshir me priyatamo yadimau dhanadatmajau tattata sadhayishyami yangitan tan mahatmana. Because Devarshi Narada, he has desired that they be delivered by me, so I have to follow that. So therefore, although Narad Muni cursed, but he also forgave them. And therefore, the direction of Lord Damodar changes. And he goes in between the two trees, Arjuna trees, and pulls them. And so, sometimes people feel, how can I start spreading Krishna consciousness? How can I distribute Krishna consciousness? Because I am myself sinful. I am myself khala. Khala means rascal. So therefore, Lord Damodar is pulling Ukhala. Ukhala means that mortar, grinding mortar. So he's saying, Damodar is saying, I am bound. The Khala is also bound. But because the Khala has only one good quality, it is tied to me. Number one, bound to me by love. And then number two, following in my footsteps. So anybody who's bound to Krishna by love and follows in the footsteps of the Lord gets the power to deliver. And therefore, Lord actually uses that Ukhala as instrument to deliver. Prabhu kahe tu mina ar kori se papa jagai madhai bole. Jagai madhai bole arana bapa. That Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, while delivering Jagai and Madhai, said, don't commit any more sins. And Jagai and Madhai immediately said, yes, we agree. We will not commit any more sin. So, all of us have a tendency to get deviated and commit sin. Even if someone in the association of devotees indulges in sense gratification and commits a sin, one must come in front of their lordships and beg for forgiveness. And when we beg for forgiveness from the Lord gives us another chance. And then He also gives us the power to forgive others. So therefore, this happens when there is proper discrimination. And that discrimination is created as a result of spiritual knowledge. So therefore, Prabhupada established ISKCON on the basis of giving that knowledge based on which discrimination can be applied, which is in the Srimad Bhagavatam. One devotee in the initial years, after the Guru Ashtakam was introduced, Vande Guru Sri Charanarvindam, the 8 verses of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, which we sing early in the morning. So one devotee approached Prabhupada and said, the 5th stanza speaks about how the spiritual master is engaged in serving Radha and Krishna in the groves of Vrindavan, Nikunj. And the disciple must assist the Guru in those leelas. So it appeared to be a very esoteric, understanding. So the devotee asked, Nikunja yono ratikeli siddhya yayalibhi yuktirapekshaniya. What does it mean, Srila Prabhupada, that the disciple must assist in the groves of Vrindavan? The Guru. So he was expecting a very esoteric answer. Prabhupada said, the disciple must assist the Guru in the groves of Vrindavan in the spiritual world. Here in the material world, you assist me in my mission My mission is to distribute Krishna consciousness, and you can assist by going out in the streets and distributing books. So Prabhupada brought down something which was very, very esoteric, down to practical action. Go and distribute books. And as we are celebrating the month of December, book distribution marathon, the reason we go out and distribute books is you do not know how, by coming in contact with the books, and more importantly, with the devotee who is distributing that books, the transformation begins. There was one businessman who was originally from Gujarat, near Jamnagar, which is close to Dwarka. And he had gone to Spain to do business. And everybody was telling him, you should learn Spanish. Then only you can do business. If you're in Spain, you want to do business, you can't do without learning Spanish. So he was thinking how to learn Spanish. So this businessman was out on the streets one day, and then he saw there was a book table. And one Spanish brahmachari, he was standing there and he was distributing books. So he approached the book table and was looking curiously. And this devotee said to this businessman, please take this wonderful book. This is the summary of the 10th canto. It is called the Krishna book. All Krishna pastimes are there. The Vrindavan pastime, Dwarka pastimes, everything. So this businessman looked at this book and said, hey, what you are telling me about Krishna pastimes? I am from Jamnagar. I am from Krishna's hometown, Dwarka. I know everything about all this. You don't tell me. So as soon as he said that, Krishna within the heart inspired this devotee. And he said, sir, you may know about Krishna in Dwarka, but you may not know Spanish. So you study this book and learn Spanish. I'll give you one in English, one in Spanish. This man was a businessman. He thought, oh, this is a good offer. So he purchased both the books, one in English and Spanish, and started learning Spanish. And he not only learned Spanish, he learned Krishna consciousness. And he is now an initiated devotee and leader of the whole community there in one of the towns in Spain. And I had gone to his house for lunch prasadam. And he was sharing this story. Right? And he said, because he's a businessman, he said, this was the best investment I made. So, yes, Devamrit Maharaj says that there are 4 misconceptions people have in this world. And the first misconception is people feel money can bring happiness, technology can bring prosperity, weapons can bring security, and the earth has unlimited resources to supply. And these myths are debunked by Srila Prabhupada in his books and his purports. Because unless one gets conviction that I have to lead a different kind of life, one will always have some attraction towards sinful life. So that's a very, very important point to consider. And therefore, Pankajangri Prabhu one time was giving a lecture and he said, what's the difference between austerity and higher taste? And he said, austerity is to say no to sense gratification grudgingly. And higher taste is to say no to sense gratification willingly. When you willingly say no to sense gratification, that is higher taste. So therefore, one desire conquered is more powerful than 100 desires fulfilled. And so Rupa and Sanatan, when they are approaching Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with straw between their teeth, they are saying, Jagai madai hoite koti koti gun, adhama patita prabhu ami duijan. We are more fallen than Jagai and Madhai. Mlecha jati mlecha karma, kori mlecha karma, go brahmana drohe songe amara sangama. Our birth is as mlechas, our activities is as mlechas, our association is that of mlechas. One becomes fallen because of birth, because of occupation, because of association. And so they say, Mora karma mora hathe golaye bandhiya, ko vishaya vishta garthe diyache felaya. My dear Lord, we are making choices in life in such a way that we are tying a noose around our own neck. Who's responsible? I am responsible. I am making those choices. I can use my discrimination to avoid sin and choose seeking shelter of Krishna and his devotees. But as soon as I make the choice of sin, it is like tying a noose around one's own neck. Ku vishaya vishtha garte diyache pelaya. Therefore, they are begging the Lord, please forgive us for our sinful life and accept us as your disciples. Baman yaiche chand dhorite chahe kore, to iche ei vancha more uthai antare. Yes, you are right there as the moon. We are like a dwarf, but your grace can touch us and transform us. So Mahaprabhu responds to their prayers for forgiveness and he says that Aji hoite duhar naam रूप सनातन दैन्य छाड़ तोमार दैन्य फाटे मोर मन. I give you the name Rup and Sanatan, and my first instruction to you after your initiation is give up your humility and just follow these instructions. And therefore, being in such an exalted position, still they are expressing these feelings because unless one gets the power to overcome sin and deviation, one cannot progress in Krishna consciousness. And therefore, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given the process, and the process which gives us the strength to overcome this is chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. So when I was shooting for the Atma serial many years ago, we had one of our devotees with us, Sarabhauma Prabhu. And he used to be a professor in a medical college, some other part of the world, where law and order was not so proper. So he was invigilator for an exam, and students would come carrying guns, and they would keep gun on the table and take out their cheats and start copying and everything. And if invigilator, after seeing what is on the table, there was no question. They would just be mute witness. So one day he became so frustrated that what is this joke that I'm supposed to be invigilator, I can't do anything. So he just took out his bead bag and started chanting in between the rows. As the students were copying and everything, he said, let me finish my rounds at least. Mala to ho jaye. So he was chanting up and down. And then suddenly, one student felt that this chanting was disturbing his copying. He was not able to concentrate. So he suddenly caught hold of his bead bag. And he said, what is this? So Sarvam Prabhu touched the pistol and said, what is this? He said, Arey, banduk hai. He said, ye bhi banduk hai. So that fellow asked, how many bullets? He took it out and said, 108. So the weapon has been given. The weapon is, as Bhagavatam says in the 7th canto, when someone is walking on a path with pebbles and thorns, if every pebble and every thorn has to be smoothened, life will become impossible. What is easier way? Wear a shoe. So similarly, if you try to transform the circumstances and situations around you, you will go nuts. So therefore, create a kavach around your own consciousness. And this is the process. Because when we are chanting, what is that kavacha? It is not just mechanical repetition of some sound. The real kavacha is the constant realization that I am a servant. I am a servant. And a servant means I have to be constantly alert to receive the next instruction from my master. That instruction may be pleasurable or painful, but I have to be ready. So a person has to be alert. So therefore, bewilderment is caused because we are not alert for what is coming next. And that is called lack of consciousness. So we are a Krishna consciousness means we have to be conscious that Krishna is the master of both spiritual and material energies. Krishna may deliver his will through his spiritual energy. He may deliver his will through the material energy. Both are being delivered by him. And I'm always going to be receiving it. And because we tend to forget this, then we become bewildered. So therefore, sin is something we need to be protected from, and we need to beg forgiveness from the Lord for our sinful tendencies. The second prayer with respect to forgiveness is we should pray to the Lord to forgive us when we commit offenses. Offenses or aparadha, right? So Brahmaji commits an offense. So what is the difference between sin and offense? Offense is when we deliberately cause pain to the Lord and Lord's devotees. Radha means satisfaction. Aparadha means diminishing satisfaction. That diminishing satisfaction happens as a result of disconnection with the Lord. This connection happens by the displeasure of the Lord. Like that. And therefore, our great Brahmaji, he prays, Naumidyate brabapushe taditambaraya gunjabatamsa paripichala sanmukhaya. My dear Lord, I'm sorry I could not recognize who you are. I just thought you're a small boy. Because you were wearing a peacock feather on your head, you were just holding some curd rice in your hand. You were just having a bamboo flute. How could I know you are the Supreme? Please forgive me. He's praying to the Lord like that. And then when Ambarish Maharaj is offended by Durvasa Muni, Durvasa Muni is being chased by that Sudarshan Chakra all over the universe. Durvasa Muni never realized Ambarish Maharaj's power. All Ambarish Maharaj did is fold his hands and pray to the Lord. And then finally being chased, he reaches from Shiva Loka. He comes to Vaikuntha and he prays, Ajanata te paramanubhavam kritam mayagam bhavata priyanam. I did not realize the potency and the power of your own devotee. He appeared to be very simple. And therefore, when the Lord hears that, he becomes upset with Durvasa Muni. Durvasa Muni was in Vaikuntha in great anxiety, shivering and trembling, because a few feet away was Sudarshan Chakra. When you see paintings of the Sudarshan Chakra, it appears very cool. When you see deities of the Lord with Sudarshan Chakra, it appears very ecstatic. But when the Sudarshan Chakra actually manifests for performing the action it is supposed to perform, the one who's at the receiving end of that Mahaprasad finds the Sudarshan Chakra to be extremely hot. And therefore, Durvasa Muni made history by being the first person to experience anxiety in Vaikuntha. Which means that the power of offending and displeasing the Lord's devotee is such that there is no counteraction anywhere in this creation, even up till Vaikuntha, for the restlessness created by that trauma. And therefore, when he comes back, falls at the feet of Ambarish Maharaj. And therefore, the counteraction for that offense is to beg forgiveness from the very person whom we have offended. And then he starts praying and begging forgiveness. And then Ambarish Maharaj looks at the Sudarshan. Right? And then he requests the Sudarshan to leave Durvasa. And when Durvasa Muni sees this, he becomes filled with joy. And then he says that Aho ananta dasanam mahatvam drishtamadhyame kritaga sopiyan rajan mangalani samihase. There are so many transcendentalists who may appear in different clothes, different symbols, different kinds of tilak. From the transcendental perspective, if you look at somebody like Durvasa who is without any clothes, he appears to be more renounced than Ambarish, who is a king, who is an emperor. Ambarish has all the trappings of an extremely powerful ruler. Influence, palace, wives, children, huge armies, royal opulence. But the Srimad Bhagavatam is reversing our stereotyped conceptions that spiritual life and spirituality is not external. It is internal. Audit of the status of our spiritual life is not done by society around us. It is done by the super soul within us. And therefore, he reserves the right to ultimately declare whether we are pass or fail. So, Durvasa Muni appears to be renounced, but Ambarish Maharaj is declared to be ultimately renounced. And final certificate is given by Durvasa himself. Aho anantadasa anam mahatvam drishtamadhyame. Today I can declare that you are a Vaishnava. Because amongst all categories of transcendentalists, what differentiates the Vaishnava from the others is only the Vaishnava have the capacity and the capability and the power to forgive to this extent. And therefore, Srimad Bhagavatam extends the conception of Vaishnava is not something which is based on official affiliation to any institution, official affiliation to any particular club or membership. It is not based on what kind of dress you adorn, but it is the type of quality which you manifest, inspired by love for the Supreme Lord. And therefore, here he mentions this. So this is very, very important point. And offense, aparadha, it makes the heart heart hard. There are 4 things which make the heart hard: impersonalism, demigod worship, atheism, and offense, aparad. रामचंद्र खान अपराध बीज खोइला sei bij briksha hoya agete pholila. So when Ramachandra Khan performed the offense towards Thakur Haridas, that was a seed, and that seed grew into a briksha. When Nityananda Prabhu came, again he offended Nityananda Prabhu. And as a result of that, Vaishnav dharma ninda kore, Vaishnav apaman, bahudiner aparadhe, paila parinam. That became the culture, the habit of Ramachandra Khan. So when one develops the habit of criticism, that becomes part of that person's DNA or culture. Vaishnava dharma ninda kore. Ramachandra Khan started criticizing Vaishnav dharma, Vaishnav apaman, and he started offending and insulting the Vaishnavas. Bahudiner aparadhe paila parinam. And he received the result of that after a long time. It was not immediate. It takes time before it manifests. Prema pracharana ara pashanda dalan dui karye avaduta korena brahman. So Nityananda Prabhu was traveling, preaching, sharing prema. Giriraj Maharaj told Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, I like preaching. Prabhupada said, no, not I like preaching. You should say, preaching is my life. Preaching is my life. And therefore, here is, Lord Nityananda who's doing prema pracharana. And so, finally, because of insulting Nityananda Prabhu, Ramachandra Khan is ultimately punished by the governor. And ultimately he is put in jail. Mahantera apamane je deshe gramer hoye ek janer doshe sab desha ujade. Just by one person's devotional service, entire community gets the benefit. By one person's Vaishnava aparad, the entire community can be punished. Mahantera apamane je deshe grame hoye. In whichever desh and grama Mahanta is offended, then ekajanar doshe sab desha ujade. One person's fault in being offensive can influence and take away the prosperity of the entire community. So this is very, very important to appreciate. And therefore, Utsaha, Nishchayat, Dhairyat, all 3 are important. Enthusiasm without patience creates controlling tendency. Patience without enthusiasm creates complacency tendency. So we need patience and enthusiasm. And so while speaking Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is choosing humility over clarity, and therefore he is not too much emphasizing again and again that he is the supreme, although in various places he has mentioned. But in some places he has kept it indirect also, because he wants the conditioned soul to recognize that by using their own discrimination. And therefore, Mahabharata describes that when knowledge is given, that effect of that knowledge happens in 4 ways. That I sit and study Bhagavad Gita. Okay. So 25% of the transformation happens because of that knowledge. 25% of the transformation happens because of my own understanding, introspection, intuition, and application. 25% of the impact of that knowledge happens by being with others who are similar minded and who are trying to apply that knowledge along with me. And the final 25% of that knowledge gets influenced only with time. So, therefore, when we hear, it has an impact like this. So, therefore, when we come to Krishna consciousness and start practicing the process, it may be that in some time we may feel, that what is this? Even the greatest knowledge we may start minimizing, because we start minimizing the devotees with whom we are spending time in Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, when we first connect with Krishna consciousness, the enthusiasm is at peak, right? And even small things make a transformation. Just like there was one in Europe, there was one guy many years ago, this is in the 90s, where you had all these top distributors in Europe. So they were sharing a story. There was this young guy in Europe who did not have anything, useful to do in life. So he was looking for some entertainment. So how he would get entertained was he would go on the railway track where the train would come. And as the train was approaching, he would run at full speed towards the train. And then, just a few feet away, before the train could hit him, he would jump off the track. So you may wonder, what is so entertaining in this? It is so dangerous. But what would give him that entertainment was, as he was running and coming near the train, and the train is at such high speed the driver cannot put brake. But when he sees that there is somebody who is about to be killed, the driver would be in great panic. So seeing the driver's face would give him fun. As there are 8.4 million species, there are 8.4 million types of pleasure also. So he had some tamasic kind of pleasure out of this. So one day, as usual, he was doing this, and then a train was coming at full speed and he just jumped. And when he jumped and fell on the ground, somehow his face fell on an object. And then on the grass, there was some object. And then he touched it, and then he got up and he saw it was a book. And that book was Ishopanishad. He fell on that book, and then he picked it up, and there was this Vishnu, peaceful. That was the most peaceful face he had ever seen. And he got inspired. He started, reading that book, and he became one of the top book distributors in Europe. So people have no clue about what is their goal in life, and they are totally bewildered. But when they come in contact, it has an immediate impact. But then the bigger challenge is to maintain it over time. So when Mahaprabhu is in Jagannath Puri, specifically in both Madhya Lila and Anta Lila, pastimes are included which indicate how Mahaprabhu tolerates such insults. So Amogha, who is the son-in-law of Sarabham Bhattacharya, he insults Mahaprabhu. And because of that insult, he gets cholera. But Mahaprabhu goes and embraces him and delivers him. And while delivering, because, Sarabham Bhattacharya, he is very happy that he got cholera. And he says, good, that this is what he deserves. But Mahaprabhu, he embraces Amogha and says, Prabhu ashvasana kore sparshi taragatra sarvabhauma sambandhe tumi mora sneha patra. Amogha, you have committed an offense, but you are very dear to me because you are related to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. And Sarvabhauma grihe dasa dasi ye kukur seha mora priya anya janarahudura. Anybody in Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's house who's related, dasa dasi ye kukur, even if it is a dog. is very dear to me. Seha Mora Priya. Such people who are related to the devotees are very dear to me. So then Mahaprabhu tells him, Aparada nahi sada lao Krishna nama eta boli Prabhu aila sarva bhaumasthana. Mahaprabhu gave him two instructions. Always chant the holy names and do not offend. And therefore, we have to pray to the devotees whom we have offended. And we have to pray to the Lord to protect us from this tendency to commit offense and to forgive us like that. And so Srila Prabhupada, he made this beautiful point that we become, very conscious when we respect devotees and we respect the opportunities which we have received. So that respect is very important. Ati parichayat avagya. Right? There was this devotee who grew up in a Gaudiya Vaishnava family in Bengal. His grandmother was, going to the Gaudiya Mutt and all that. But he always thought, this is not something, scientific, and this is some sentimental thing. So this boy grew up and then he went abroad, for higher studies. He was doing his PhD. And then he saw that in another country, so many students are interested in meditation. And then many of his friends were interested in some kind of Korean Buddhism from Korea. So he said, okay, he started reading books on Korean Buddhism. So one day he was out on the campus and one ISKCON lady devotee came with a bunch of books to distribute. And she appeared from Southeast Asia. So he looked at her and said, hey, you are distributing books. Which country are you from? She said, I am from Korea. He said, oh, you are from Korea. I am practicing Korean Buddhism. What do you practice? She said, Gaudiya Vaishnavism. He said, what? That is what my grandmother was doing. I am born in such a family. But why are you doing that? It is not very high. This is the highest. Then there was a debate. And then she finally gave him a book. He took the book and then started associating. Now he's initiated disciple. But he said that because I was surrounded by kirtans and this and that right from my childhood, I thought, what is so great about this? So therefore, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that what is it which makes us attracted and eager in Krishna consciousness moment to moment. So Krishna has two qualities. One is his sarvagyata, by which he is aware of each and everything happening in every corner of his creation. Second quality is mugdhata. Krishna becomes bewildered and oblivious to anything else except love. So Krishna is simultaneously sarvagya, he knows everything, and simultaneously mugdha, he is not aware of anything except his devotee's love. So how can you be aware and unaware at the same time? So Chakravarti Pad says that is because of Krishna's achintya bheda shakti. Krishna's achintya shakti, which makes him reconcile both these things simultaneously. Okay. So therefore, how are we able to appreciate this? So Chakravarti Pad says, when we perform devotional service with sacrifice, when we are willingly going through some pain to serve, that sense of sacrifice creates love. That makes us express that love. When we demonstrate such a love, and we develop such love for Krishna, then even ordinary activities done by the object of your love appears extraordinary. And when you are experiencing such extraordinary, symptoms, moment to moment of the object of the love, that always leaves you with eagerness. So therefore, wonder is created because of love. The foundation for wonder is love. And the foundation for eagerness is a sense of wonder. And the foundation for love is sense of sacrifice. So when there is sacrifice, there is love. When there is love, there is wonder. When there is wonder, there is eagerness. Otherwise, everything appears ordinary and boring. And then for entertainment, you have to go to WhatsApp only. So therefore, Krishna is performing ordinary activities like running in the courtyard. And as Radhanath Maharaj in his lectures mentions how sometimes he goes into gopis' houses and passes stool and urine, or speaks some harsh words, or picks up Nanda Maharaj. These are very ordinary activities. But to the ordinary activity evoke strong, it is the feeling wonder because of the love. And therefore, Prabhupada said, the greatest trick of Maya is to make you convinced and to make the Krishna consciousness movement and the association of devotees and the devotees appear ridiculous. That is Maya's greatest end. If Maya has succeeded in instilling within us the feeling that this movement, this association, these devotees are ridiculous, ordinary, then she has succeeded in her agenda. And therefore, here, Rupa Goswami recommends Shrimat Bhagavat Arthanam Aswadai Rasikai Saha Sajati Yashaye Snigdhe Sadhu Sanga Swatovarehi. It is not the lack of books, but the lack of discussion about the books in the association of like-minded people, which makes our consciousness move on the mundane direction more. Krishna Tattva Bhakti Tattva Prema Tattva Sara Bhava Tattva Rasa Tattva Lila Tattva Ara. And the association of devotees is meant for us to come together to explore these 6 tattvas within the Harikatha. Krishna Tattva, Bhakti Tattva, Prema Tattva, Bhava Tattva, Rasa Tattva, Lila Tattva. When we do that, then the wonder remains. Taddinam durdinam manye me gacchadam na durdinam. Taddinam Krishna samlapa katha piyusha varjitam. Narad Muni says, what is a bad day? Not a cloudy day, but that day where we do not discuss Harikatha. And therefore, Srila Prabhupada, would often quote Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Pujala ragapatha gaurava bhange mattala sadhu sangha bishaya range. That this topic is very high. We cannot approach that topic directly. We can only approach it through service to the Vaishnavas. And when we start committing offenses towards those very Vaishnavas, then the taste for the practice goes away. So we have to beg forgiveness from the Vaishnavas and beg forgiveness from the Lord for committing such offenses. The third prayer for forgiveness is we should pray to the Lord to forgive us in our neglectful dealings. So first was begging forgiveness from sin, second from offenses, third from neglectful dealings. When Agastya Rishi enters where Indradumna Maharaj is worshipping the deities, Indradumna Maharaj is worshipping the beautiful deities. He's absorbed. But he doesn't see Agastya Rishi. Agastya Rishi becomes angry. Whose problem is it? Suppose you are in position of Indradumna Maharaj. You are worshipping Radha Krishna deities fully absorbed in the arati, and somebody comes and you don't observe them and you don't offer respects to them and you're busy worshipping, and that person becomes angry, whose problem is that? We will say, naturally, it is your problem. Why did you come without informing suddenly? And that too when I'm performing arati. So naturally, if I'm performing arati, I may think, okay, there is the highest thing which I am doing. That person should join in kirtan in the arati, rather than becoming angry upon me. So we will get into a debate. So when Agastya Rishi became angry on Indradumna Maharaj, Agastya Rishi became so angry that he cursed him to become an elephant. Right? So Indradumna Maharaj did not turn around and retaliate by saying, what elephant? You become tiger. Or you become this or that. So therefore, Krishna consciousness means to see the world the way Krishna sees it. And the difference between our previous tendencies and our future expected behavior is the Srimad Bhagavatam. Because the Bhagavatam contains all those kinds of responses and behaviors which we should try to inculcate. Otherwise, there will be no difference between what we were before and after coming also. Because the transformation doesn't happen just by coming and sitting under a fan, where somewhere the Bhagavatam is going. Right? We are sitting here, right now above us many flights are going. Mumbai, New York flight is going, Mumbai, London flight is going. Flights are going. So we can't say, हाँ, दिख रहा है. Plane कहाँ उड़ रहा है? अरे आप हो क्या plane में? So therefore, although all of that is there, but the transformation should happen. So the way Indradumna Maharaj responds to that curse, Prabhupada dissects that, and he says that these are 10 points we should remember when we face reversals. What are the 10 points? He says, first point, he says, we should accept this. Indradumna Maharaj accepted the curse of Agastya Rishi as the desire of the Lord. Second, he accepted it as blessings of the Lord. Third, he accepted the curse. It was due to my past misdeeds. Fourth, he considered this curse to be a token reaction for all unlimited lifetimes of sin he has committed. Fifth, he accepted this curse to be for his own purification. This was his analysis. 5 points. Then he responded in 3 ways. What was his response? His first response was, when you're worshipping Radha Krishna and after doing arati, before even you can blow the shankh, you get cursed to become elephant. What will be the first response? Never again arati. और कुछ भी करेंगे. ये आरती का तो आरतो हो गया. Misery has come. His first response was, I will continue serving the same lordships in future. His second response was, I will continue serving in an undisturbed state. Not that next time he's doing arati, he's looking angrily at the Lord. Hathi bana diya. When you carry memories of certain incidents and you are still serving, externally serving, but internally you are boiling. Right? So Lord also is in anxiety. If you are serving someone prasad and you are throwing the prasad on the plate, hello, vada lo. See, even that guy will be, Hare, kya ho gaya? मैं बहुत गुस्से में हूँ. बोला अच्छा यहाँ छोड़ दो, मैं सर्व कर लूंगा. So if you are serving the Lord, He expects it to be done with some love and affection, not with anger. So He says, I will continue serving undisturbed. And third, I will continue serving depending on the Lord only. These are very difficult things. It's all there in Prabhupada's purport. So 3 ways he responds. Then there are 2 expectations which he has from the Lord. What are his 2 expectations? Krishna will take care and Krishna will protect me. So total 10 points in this beautiful purport Prabhupada is mentioning. And Chakravarti Pad says, the practice of Krishna consciousness transforms into consciousness, transformation of our habits and consciousness over a period of time, mysteriously. Just like when someone eats pan. Pan is what color? Green color. And when one chews on the pan, then all the color around the lips and mouth and tongue become what color? Red. We are not promoting that. But this is Chakravarti Pad gives in his example in 11th canto. That the green color of the betel leaf, it is not, you can't predict the final outcome of the color. Like that, you may be doing some practices like you are serving some devotee, you're doing some arati, you're doing something. But all of that is part of a treatment which changes the color of our consciousness. So we have to keep chewing, right? That means we have to follow the process diligently. And so, Radhanath Maharaj quotes, tolerance means to endure with gratitude. And sincerity means to not give up one's practices and continue chanting with proper character. Continue chanting with proper character is sincerity. To endure with gratitude is tolerance. So we have to follow that process. And so, if we simply think studying is sufficient, so studying of Prabhupada's book, study with steadiness will result in erudition. But submissive surrender will result in empowerment. So therefore, this is a very, very important principle which is being described. And Bhagavatam 5th canto says that the 3 most powerful causes of entanglement in this world is first, pride, second, false argument, and third is lack of discrimination. So that lack of discrimination many times results, and each is connected, right? Each one is connected. False argument, pride results in false argument and then lack of discrimination. But here it is said, although Agastya Rishi cursed Indradan Maharaj because he responded like this. What was the impact of that response? Apanna kaunjarim shauchim atmasmriti binashinim harir archananubhavena yat gajatve api anusmriti. Very, very beautiful verse. Apanna kaunjarim yonim. He got the body of elephant. And what is the speciality of elephant body? Atma smriti vinashinim. It destroys remembrance. Elephant body is not favorable for practicing spiritual life. But Hari Archananu Bhavena Yat Gajatve Api Anusmriti. But because Indradyumna Maharaj followed 2 things, he was given the power to remember. Mattah smritir jnanam apohanam cha. Right? Recently I met a boy. His name was Apohan. I said, whenever you meet ISKCON devotees, there will be a lot of discussion on your name. Smriti is remembrance. Krishna says, Mattaha. Krishna gives power to remember. Krishna gives power to forget. So therefore, we have come into the Vaishnava Satsanga to get the power to remember. And therefore, why Indradumna Maharaj was given the power to remember? Because he was sincere in his service. And he was sensitive with the sevaks. So sincerity in seva and sensitivity with the sevaks, that enables smaranam, Krishna smaranam. And therefore, we have come into the association of devotees to enjoy the returns of our investment of time and energy. What is the returns? Smaranam. If Krishna smaranam is the returns we are looking for, all of our choices should be also appropriately modeled. So that's something which is very important. And so the next chapter of Gajendra Moksha says, Evam vyavasita buddhya samadhaya manohrdi jajapa paramam japyam prak janma anushikshitam. Even in next life, he was able to remember the Supreme Lord. So that's, I think, something which is very, very crucial and important to understand. And, when I became connected to Krishna consciousness movement, my father was not very favorable at that time. But Radhanath Maharaj always said one thing: be always sensitive. Be sensitive in dealings to all family members, to others, and never break, never misbehave. And in due course of time, you will see that they'll appreciate the movement. So after many years, of course, some devotees tried preaching to him with philosophy and all, but it didn't really work so much. But Vamsidhar Prabhu, who's currently, struggling in the Bhaktivedanta hospital with his health, and I want to pray for him. He was one of the main people responsible, because when he visited, my hometown, he did not speak philosophy. He spoke about the stock market. And he spoke about how much he had made money in the stock market and how much he had lost in that stock market and how much anxiety he was in, and how ultimately Krishna consciousness helped him realize the ultimate goal and became stable. And then he glorified my father, how he did not ever deal in the stock market. So he felt very good that, oh, here is somebody who spent his whole life in the stock market and is approving, the mode of life I followed. And then my father told me, ye asli bhakt hai. I said, why? Others who are speaking all going from there above my head. What he is speaking is at my level. So then he came to the temple, met Maharaj and started chanting and all that. And so Maharaj asked my father, so what were you doing before? So my father said, whole life I was serving the steel plant for 40 years. Radhanath Maharaj said, now you serve the Tulsi plant. Then, Maharaj started glorifying me in front of her. Are you have given such good training to your son, now he's become devotee. My father said, no, Maharaj, we just did whatever our duty, but ultimately your training has been the icing on the cake. So Maharaj told him, but you are the one who baked the cake. So then gradually, what Maharaj I have seen has done is in his dealings with so many people over time, that sensitivity in dealings is ultimately what pleases Krishna in the long run. So when there is nothing much happening, it is easy to be sensitive. But when there is provocation, and still to be tolerant and continue to remain sensitive, that is more challenging, that is more difficult. But therefore, this is a very inspiring purport for me, which in the 8th canto this comes. And Giriraj Maharaj writes in his book, I will build you a temple, that he approached Prabhupada because the Juhu, episode was becoming too difficult, right? And with this, I'll come to the 4th prayer, which is missed opportunity. We should beg forgiveness from the Lord for having missed certain opportunities, because service comes. Sometimes message comes, opportunity comes. But the opportunity does not come packaged with a clear-cut message. It is intelligence to grab that opportunity when it comes. The gift does not always come with the right wrapping. And therefore, when the Brahmins, they were performing yajna and cowherd boys came, said, Krishna is hungry, please give. They couldn't recognize. And they felt very morose later. Dhik janmanis trivikya, dhik vratam, dhik bahogyatam, dhik kulam, dhik kriyadaksham, vimukha yetu adhokshaje. We could not recognize. Because Krishna did not come in the form they were expecting. He came through the cowherd boys. He appeared ordinary. So like that, some tremendous revolutionary opportunity for seva comes. And people miss it. Because they are so clouded by their own thoughts of what I should be doing and what I would like and what I don't like and this and that and everything. So, Giriraj Maharaj writes in that beautiful book that his mind was yearning to be like the Goswamis in Vrindavan and go around Braj, He Radhe, He Brajadevike Chalalite, He Krishna, like the Goswamis. Goswami's character attracted him, especially Raghunath Das Goswami. So Prabhupada could understand that. And Prabhupada said, it is good to aspire like Raghunath Das Goswami, but first Raghunath Das Goswami took care of his father's estate for many years. And therefore, you take care of your father's estate. Juhu. And then, when the right time comes, you can be, crying out to the Lord and chanting His names and expecting the Lord's grace and mercy to manifest in this direction. So therefore, this is a very, very crucial principle that many times we may miss opportunities which come, and we should pray to the Lord that He protects us or saves us from missing such opportunities. And if we have missed opportunities, we must beg the Lord for forgiveness for that. Prabhupada spent 7 years in India, in Mumbai. And in that period, all over the world, Prabhupada could not travel as much as he could have, because most of his time was in Bombay. But he had more than 5,000 disciples across the world. But in that period, where he spent more time in Mumbai and gave energy in India, hardly 20 Indian disciples were there at that period. But few people who supported Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada was so grateful. Like Mr. Sethi, he helped so much in building that, Juhu temple and Prabhupada's rooms. Prabhupada told him, just like you are building these rooms for me, for Krishna's devotee, Krishna is arranging room for you in Vaikuntha. So Mr. Sethi said, but Prabhupada, I'm not so qualified and I'm not following all the rules and all. How will I go to Vaikuntha? Prabhupada said, that is my job. You take care of your job here to make sure that the rooms are built. So those who actually took that opportunity to serve, that window of opportunity when it opens, it may not always open with a loud bang and a loud announcement, but it requires very, very keen sense of consciousness and conscience and intuition to understand that yes, the opportunity is there. And when you go to grab it, there may be lots of thorns surrounding that. So when you initially grab it, the hand may become bloody. But the treasures are not always stored in very comfortable, soft, cushioned situations. So therefore, we should not miss an opportunity just because it appears difficult. We should grab the opportunity if it has been ordained and ordered by the Vaishnavas as part of our dhan. And therefore, our Kaviraj Goswami says, Payajara agya dhan brajera Vaishnavagan tara madhye mukhya horidas Chaitanya Bilasa Sindhu Kalloler Ekabindu Taha Kana Kohe Krishna Das. He says, the Vaishnavas in Vrindavan have given me order to write the remaining pastimes, Sheshalila, of Mahaprabhu post Sannyas. Payajara Agya Dhan. That Agya given by the Vaishnavas is my Dhan, my real wealth. Many times when Vaishnavas give us Agya, we think it is Agya Gan, not Agya Dhan. Why this order has come? So this order he takes it as his real possession. And when that consciousness is there, he is able to see everything very clearly. So therefore, let us offer our prayers to the Lord, begging him to forgive us for our sins, for our offenses, for our neglectful dealings, for our missed opportunities, so that every moment we are able to dovetail in serving the Vaishnavas, in pleasing the Vaishnavas, and thus being blessed by them, getting the tolerance to cope with all kinds of painful situations, and remember Krishna at the time of death. Thank you all very much. Hare Krishna. So, just one moment. Please don't get up. Mukundamala Prabhu has some very auspicious announcements on what he is going to give you. You're going to get something exciting.
Hare Krishna.
What is that? Seva.
Thank you, Gauranga Prabhu, for... So, to give you an update about the book distribution marathon, so far 52,000 books have been distributed. But that is only half the score. We are supposed to reach 1 lakh by the end of the month. So please gear up and inspire all your contacts, all your friends and devotee circles to distribute and participate in this marathon. The bus party score, which is touring Chiploon and Konkan area, they have distributed 1200 books so far. Daily they are getting a score of 100, 150 in that range. And anyone who would like to join, them any for a few days, 2 days, 3 days, 5 days, 1 week, you're all welcome. There is a nice stay and arrangement, prasadam, arrangement, everything is there. You just have to go there and spend a few hours in a day, morning few hours and evening few hours. So many devotees, many boys, IVS boys have also joined them once in a while. Shastradhan is also going on nicely. The Tulabhar section, Tulabhar event is getting attracting a lot of people. One group from Mira Road, the council of Dwarkadish Prabhu, they have decided to get all the children from their group in Mira Road and they are going to have a Tulabhar festival today afternoon, 4:30, 5 o'clock. So all these 8 to 10-year-old children, maybe around 10 of them, they will be getting their weights done and Tulabhar books. So that will be a grand event. So you all are requested to join. And if you want to get all the children, that's also welcome. Children will get to know what this Tulabhar is and how they can contribute towards the marathon. So that is going to be quite an exciting event today evening. So you're all welcome to join and participate. So please remember this. By the end of the month, December 31st, we want to reach the score of 100,000. So as much as possible, please try your best. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.